Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we get the privilege to come to you to share really relevant, timely, and pertinent information about money, life, and everything else. We say money encompasses everything. And on this show, we don't shy away from topics. And so this week, I was having a conversation with a close family member, and we got into this conversation about office politics and why that matters and why that matter. So this is tonight, we're gonna have this conversation. We said office politics exists in virtually all organizations. It doesn't matter where you are. It could be church, it could be your workplace or an organization. It's there, office politics. And understanding how to navigate correctly to these experiences can be very beneficial. Beneficial how? To your career advancements and help shield you from some of the negative consequences of bad office politics. So tonight, we're gonna have an open, provocative, and excited conversation. Stay tuned, please. I'm encouraging you to tag, share, and make a comment. Let your friends know that we are here, and every Wednesday we are here to share really pertinent information and that information that they can use. They're timely because they can use them as we speak in. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my friend who's on tonight. I'll give her an opportunity to say hello, to introduce herself quickly, and then we'll dive into this very important conversation about why office politics matter. Nadia?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Najee Maku. I am currently a high school math teacher. I'm also a Zumba instructor and a health coach on the side. I help people reach their health goals. So that's who I am. I've been a teacher for the past 6 years at this point, and I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, I love what you do because I've had an opportunity to work out with you. And I know this is your second time on the show. This show is so, it's such a, I say provocative because so many people are afraid to have these conversations. Part of it is because they're not familiar, with what it is. Because I remember sending my agenda, which I said, I say, hey, I'm gonna be doing this conversation, having this conversation. I would like for you to be part of it. And the very first thing the person said, I don't like to talk about politics. And immediately, for those who are not familiar with the terminology or the term itself, office politics, they might think this is about politics. I mean, meaning government. And I don't know about your culture, Nigeria, but in my culture, politics, most people don't wanna stay away from that. So we want to define, exactly what is office politics. Can you give us an idea? I know for me, office politics, they say that they are activities performed by individuals to improve their status, activities that you do at work outside of your job to improve your status and gain power within an organization. So what is your definition of office politics?
I think that's the nail on the head right there. Playing the game the right way so that way you can advance or reach the position that you're going for, really.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you think about it, don't we all have an agenda? And shouldn't we all have an agenda when it comes to work? Like, what is the agenda? Why are you there? Because do you remember when my very first job in banking? I remember coming in. I was in my early 20s. I said, okay, my agenda. I want to be the branch manager in 5 to 6 years before I hit a certain age. If that's your agenda, how do you play the game? Of course, do the work. We talked about that offline. But how do you play the game? So do you think that you have to play the game in order for you to get to that position? Would you agree?
I do agree, but then I also believe that depending on what your agenda is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that you play the game is going to matter. So there are people who have an agenda, but they have integrity with it. And so they're not out there to hurt other people to reach their goal. And then there are other people that will do anything by any means necessary to get to that goal. So politics can be clean or it can be real dirty.
dirty, and you don't want it to be dirty because most people are afraid of it because they always think it's only self-serving. It doesn't have to only be self-serving. You becoming a manager could be a good thing for a company because you have something that you want to offer. And also to it's not official, it's very unofficial, because when you go to a company, they're like, Gabrielle, you're gonna be working this job, and these are the duties or the responsibilities that you have. Those are very official. You can check those boxes. But in addition to those duties, there are other things you need to do in order for you to get to the next level. And why is it important? Because at the end of the day, we say that if in order for you to advance your career, right? So you're working, I know in my community, we have many nurses. You're working in a nursing home or a hospital, and you're very good as a nurse. But if you don't master the art of, and it's an art, right? It's not science, it's an art. If you don't master the art of office politics, so the question is, what causes office politics? Why should you pursue that? Or understand it and master it?
Why should you master politics in your workplace? To survive.
Yeah.
To make sure that you can maintain your way of life, your family, your dependents, people that you need to support, right? At the end of the day, we all work because we're all trying to live, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the main reason why people need to learn politics, how to play the game, how to stay or maintain the position. But I think it also makes a difference too. If your goal is just to stay where you are because you legitimately love what you do, then I feel like politics isn't as heavy as for someone who wants to move up in their workplace.
Yeah. So, but I think, like, when we talked about the fact that sometimes you are motivated because you have you have an agenda. An agenda is like an objective, a purpose. You want to get promoted. You want to lobby your boss for a job. Because have you been to places where you're like, oh, someone complaining about having been there for a long time. Oh, I've been here for 5 years, 6 years, and this person just came in and they got promoted, right? And you're like, okay, because they were able to play the game, Yes, you both could be very proficient at your job. You do it well, she does it well. But what else is she or he doing that you're not doing? That's the politics, right?
Getting their foot in the door, talking to the right people, going to the events, right? That's always going to get you a leg up. If you're just sitting at your desk all day and not interacting, or I don't want to say socializing, because that's not what you go to work for. But if you're, if you're not interacting with people and getting to know the ins and outs of the job and how the company works or how it's structured, all of those little elements make a difference, right? The people that's why they say it's important to grow your network. It's important to know certain people that can get you into the door, because sometimes it's not always about your talent or your experience. It's about who you know.
Correct. And last week we talked about who you know matters. Who you know matters not only outside of your workplace, but also who you know within the organization. Who are you having conversations with? And when opportunities come up, how you able to tap these people and say, hey, because we were talking about, can you succeed in business or in the workplace without knowing how to play the political game, the office politics game? And and you mentioned it, like, who you know matters. I don't think you can succeed. You could have a job, you could have job security if you're very good at your job, right? We talked about that offline. Like we talked about the fact that if you're very good at what you do, you can have job security, but are you gonna be advanced? Are you gonna be promoted? Are you gonna be someone who has power within the organization? If that's not your agenda, that's fine, right? But if you are sitting there frustrated because other people are have being promoted, other people have opportunities, tapping in or taking advantage of opportunities that you feel like should be yours, then you need to know how to play the game, correct?
Correct.
So let me ask you, because I like to have narratives and examples. Can you tell me, it could be your story or somebody else's story, of a way that you like an example of how playing the right, of course, not dirty, but clean politics was able to help you? I know we talked about briefly offline, like, how were you able to be helped by playing the game correctly and honestly with integrity?
So for me, I'll just tell you how I got my job now, because I'm a career
Mhm.
changer. So one of the reasons why I'm working at the school that I work at now is by word of mouth with the students that I was working with. I was in transition. I was working at a school, and I had learned about, no, actually, this is how it happened. I had graduated from the residency program at the college that I was going to get my master's degree in education.
Mhm.
And that summer, at the end of the school year, that summer, they were hiring for summer school teachers. So I applied, I got a position with the school that I'm at now, which is Boston Arts Academy.
Correct.
And I did a summer session there for like 5 weeks, and the students loved the class so much that they had told the administrators at the school that they really liked me,
Mhm.
teaching them. But they didn't have a position at the time to fill. About
Correct.
like 3 years later, they were hiring again, and they had reached out to me directly to say, hey, we want you to apply. We remember you from summer school. And I had been working there for like the last 2 summers at that point. So for me, my personal experience is just, showing up, doing the best that I can, making a lasting impression on the people that I was there for, which at the end of the day was the students. And I think for me, that's what paid off. So.
Yeah, I think for some people that comes very natural. It's natural for you to be very interactive. Like me, I can talk to the wall. Like, it doesn't matter who's in front of me. I don't care if it's the CEO or the CFO or the person the janitor. I'm gonna have a conversation. That's my personality, right? So it's so funny that I say the janitor because we'll have that question later. Those
We
people
call
of
we call them
influence.
custodians now. We don't call them
Yeah,
janitors.
because I know in high school they used to call them janitors. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me where you rank in the company. I'm
Okay.
gonna have a conversation with you. But however, you mentioned earlier that you don't have to be friends with your coworkers, right? Or you don't even have to socialize. But don't you think that's also very important? Because I'll tell you a story. It's not my story, but it's a story of someone that I dealt with, or someone that I was friend with. I remember this person coming to me. Now, let's just say caveat, right? Or full disclosure. We know in this country and many other countries, we deal with structural and institutional racism, right? So as a person of minority, you face issues in many companies that you don't really have to face, but unfortunately, because of the structure and the organization, the way things are set up in the country as a whole, we deal with that. However, there are times where it's not about that. And with this particular person, I remember them coming to me and saying, Gabrielle, I'm frustrated. I've been at this job for 8 years. And I know there's a job that's coming up, like an opportunity that's going to be opening up because my boss is leaving. And I feel like they'll never give me an opportunity, although I'm qualified for this opportunity. And I was like, why wouldn't they give you an opportunity? Of course, the first thing, like, is this organization that giving opportunities to people of color, right? And he's like, no. I say, well, obviously they hired you, right? Yeah, I don't think it's that. And they're just like overlooking me over and over again. And I was like, why are they overlooking you? So of course, I decided to probe them even more, like search, dig deeper. And I said to him, what type of conversations are you having with your boss, the person who's leaving on a weekly, daily basis, whatever? And this person said to me, I don't talk to my boss. I just come to the job and I do my work and I do a great job. And he tells me good job. And then I go home and say goodbye at the end of the day. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not talking to your boss? He's like, yeah, because, he's white, I'm black, and, we have nothing in common, right? So we were talking about the idea in business we call the similar to me effect, right? It's a real situation. In business, similar to me is the idea that when you go to an interview or at the job, people look at you to see, are there similarities? Sometimes, of course, if you're white, I'm white, similarities are very clear. Usually you came from the same environment, 2.5 kids and picket fences and everything. So, or maybe a jockey at school. all that stuff is creating similarities so people can relate to you immediately and want to work with you because they know they can relate to you. But if you are a different nationality, or you Haitian, this is an American or white person, or you are a different race, right? Or ethnicity, I should say. It's very important that you create those similarities. And how do you create those similarities? You create them by having conversations. Would you agree? I don't want to keep going, but go ahead.
Similarities. It's so funny that you say that because I think of it more of a relationship, which is, it's kind of crazy now that you're saying this out loud, because that's one of the first things that I work on day one in school, right? It doesn't really matter what your work environment is, relationships are key.
Correct.
Even if, and I'm not saying that to say you got to be best buddies with the people that you work with, because you don't. Sometimes the structure of your job may not have involve that, but like you said, coming in, being respectful, saying good afternoon or saying good morning,
Correct.
or if you are in the lunchroom, like you don't have to sit there quiet to yourself all the time. You can start a conversation, little things like that, because people are going to remember you. People are going to say, oh, this person is, nice, or this person did this, or people remember you for those small things. I remember one time, I'll tell you this, right? Last year, I had walked into, it was lunchtime. I had walked into a restaurant. One of my coworkers was there. And I didn't realize that he was watching me, but there was a student who had asked me for money because she was hungry. She didn't have anything to eat or whatever. I ended up getting her something. And he came up to me when we came back to the building and he was like, I saw what you did in there. I thought that was really cool. Like little things like that, like I didn't even have a conversation with him, but when you make those lasting impressions in your environment, people are going to see that. People are going to, you want to do things and say things that people are going to remember you by.
Yeah. So the similarity, similar to me effect, the similar to me effect is something that's very real in the workplace. People have to be able to relate to you. Right. It's not all about your race. It's not all about being a woman or a man or a minority or being more educated on that. It's you, your impression, the impression that you leave in every time you encounter them. And so this person wasn't having any conversation at all. So I said to this person, I said to her, listen, Monday, going forward, every Monday, you're going to get into a conversation. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. It could be, how was your weekend? My family and I went to a seminar. My family and I attended church. You don't have to go and preach the gospel, but something as simple as we had a great time fellowshipping with other friends. Or my family and I had a great dinner with family members. What did you do? You get to know, and this person decided to start doing that. In addition to that, they're leaving. I said to this person, you need to start asking your manager, what is he gonna do after he lives here? Because you're showing interest. You're interested in what he's gonna be doing. Find out, I kid you not, this person had a terminally ill spouse, and he was actually leaving to take care of that spouse. And this person was not even knowing what was happening to a manager, right? And then finally, I said to him, to the person, it's the person. It could be a male or female. To the person, I said to there, listen, you need to ask for the job. You need to ask. Isn't that important as you pay in politics? Don't you have to ask? Because if you don't ask, how they're going to know?
I think it's important that you learn how to advocate for yourself. That's
correct.
What I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, asking for the job, you have to say, have you thought about who you would like to replace you? And I would like to be considered, right? It's simple. You're not saying choose me, but I would like to be considered. So I think it's very important. Again, why are we having this conversation? Because on this show, we say money encompasses everything. How much money you make, your career advancements, and also where do you go in your professional life? Because, especially for both men and women, what you do for work, your career can really is very important for those who've chosen to be outside of the home. And for you not being able to master, the different techniques that, politics that you need to master so that you can get to the next level can really be detrimental. And here you are, so my next question is, what happened when you haven't mastered that? Because I know one of the things that I had written here, like people get very jealous of their coworkers who are getting promoted, right? And it becomes very toxic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think
The focus is no longer on you, it's on them. Mhm.
yeah, I think the word that comes to mind is stuck. You get stuck
Mhm.
when you are not playing. I like to say playing the game. When I think of politics, I think of playing the game, knowing the ins and outs, like
Correct.
knowing how the company works. I think no matter what or where you work, you should know the
Mhm.
company, you should know the mission of the company, you should know the structure of the company, you should know how you can move up. Right? Don't just go
Correct.
in and say, oh, I want this position. And sometimes people they get jealous over a position and they don't even know, they may not even be eligible for that position, honestly.
Correct.
But because you've been
Mhm.
there so long, you feel like you deserve something and you don't work for that position.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah.
if you have an agenda, if moving up or getting promoted or getting, recognition for the things that you do at your job is important to you, then that means you have to really step up to the plate and do the things that are necessary. And I think that's how you play the politics. That's how you learn the
Yeah.
game, right?
Yeah.
A president, the biggest politician can't be president if he doesn't know or she doesn't know everything that needs to be addressed. Can
Yeah.
you imagine us having,
We
what'd you
go
say?
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
can you imagine we have a candidate that's running for president and they don't know how that we have so many concerns for the country and they don't know how they're going to address those
Mhm.
concerns, but you want to be
Correct.
president so bad, right? So in order to play,
Yeah.
excuse me, in order to play the politics correctly, you got to network, you got to be relatable, you got to get your
Yeah.
your feet wet, as uncomfortable as it gets, and you have to know the ins and outs. You got to know
Correct.
what's good and what's not good, you know.
Yeah. And relatable that's so important. You have to be relatable because at the end of the day, the story that I was telling, this person ended up getting the job. And the only reason this person got the job was because that person decided to do what that person needed to do to get the job. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own lives, right? We are responsible for our own lives. And going back again to, when you don't get it, because if the person had not done what the person needed to have done, guess what? It would have been like somebody else getting the job because that person opened up and say, hey, I want it. Or maybe a manager would have chosen that or someone else to get the job. And then all of a sudden you're giving them attitude, right?
Can
You
I can
saying
I
like,
actually can I
yeah,
address that what you said
uh-huh,
too? I think that was really important. He was in his own head, or she
yeah,
was in their own head. They were in their own head,
yeah,
right? Talking down about themselves. You already put a restriction on yourself before you even tried.
correct.
You'll never, that's not how you play politics. That is not how you
Mhm,
play the game.
correct.
You got so thankfully that person had you to,
Yeah.
have that insight to say, hey, if this is something you want, this is what you got to do,
Mhm.
So
Well,
it's
that's how I've been able to play the game when I've had the opportunity to play the game, because you have to be able to open up and let people know what you want. Many times, even something as simple as doing the show here, and people see you doing something and they think, oh, I cannot do it. I will never be able to do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
and
If
if
you
you're
are
telling
around people,
yourself you can't, then you won't.
exactly. And I think I was looking at, if you say you can and you say you cannot, you're right. It doesn't matter how you think, you're gonna be right. It's your own perspective, it's on your own mindset. You've put restrictions on yourself, and then now you're projecting, because that's the sad part about, that's how it gets dirty when it comes to politics. It gets very dirty at the workforce. People are having attitude with coworkers, really hating on coworkers because they're seeing something. Have you been in that situation where folks are seeing greatness in you and it's making them uncomfortable because they're not used to people being so comfortable in their own skin?
Honestly, if I have, it's not something that I notice. I
Yeah,
can't sit here and say, because I don't do, that's not what I'm there for.
yeah,
I'm not there in the workplace to worry about those things. I just
yeah,
want to go wherever I am. I make an agreement with myself to do the
yeah,
best that I can.
yeah.
And if people feel a way about it, that has nothing to do with me. I can't take that on, right?
Correct.
And I'm trying to think if I've ever been in a situation or experience where I've seen that for myself. I know I've heard stories, but so if I can tell you, right, the company that I used to work for, it was an international investment firm. It was really, really, really small. There were 4 different offices internationally. I was in the main one in America. I was probably the lowest person in the totem pole at that job, and I was the only person at that job, right?
Correct.
So, but I would be the first person that you see when you walk into the office space. So the glass ceiling, when I tell you, was already cutting my head off.
Yeah.
There was no, if I wanted to move up, I would have had to take my supervisor's job.
Yeah.
And that structurally, it wasn't going to happen. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are environments where you go in, definitely you have to count your costs, in terms of your agenda. Is it the right place? I like the fact that you said, you know what, if it's happening, I don't really focus on that. Because sometimes don't you have to choose your battles? Like you have to choose because you could be trying to fight every battle and lose the war. I know recently a sibling called me and she's like, I was by accident, somebody from the office sent an email and the email had something about her. And I was like, how did you handle that? She's like, I ignored it. And that was good for you because you don't have to tackle every situation because there are times where because you're very assertive, because you're good at what you do. And many times too, you might be new to the company, but you're not new to certain things and people are not familiar with that. You're not new to speaking in public. You're not new to being vocal. You're not new to being assertive. You're not new at these things because you've been there, done that. But folks who are in the company are not familiar with that and they see you maneuvering and playing the game or just like as in being skillful. And when we say play the game, many times people are thinking like, oh, it's a game. No, life is a game. You just have been skillful, you do what you do and you just doing it. Some are very nonchalant, right? You don't even think about it. Second nature to you. Like for me, it's second nature to have a conversation with someone. It's second nature to make people laugh. You know what I mean? But for those who are not familiar with that type of charisma or that type of a personality, they might think you're trying to show off. They might think you're trying to dim their light when that's not what you're trying to do. Like you said, you do your best. And as a matter of fact, most people who are good team players, i.e. good politicians at work, what do? They want to bring everybody up.
Exactly. Yep. I was going to say that they support the people that are around them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's also being a good leader too. Yeah. Do you think, I have a question for you. Do you think that being a politician means that you have to be a leader in your workplace?
I'm glad you asked that. It's so funny. We're thinking alike because one of the questions that I had was, in terms of like, so the answer is no, because you don't have to be the leader because going back to the custodian you mentioned, right? The custodian could have a lot of power in the workplace, in that work environment that you think, oh, only a CEO, only director can get me to the level that I do the next level. Meanwhile, the custodian, guess what? If he or she's been there for a long time and has built rapport, right? A great rapport with management or the CEO or the director, because guess what? If he's the custodian or she's the custodian, guess what they're doing? They're going to every office, right? Every office. And if they're anything like certain personalities, they have it, hey, how you doing? How are the kids? Having conversations. Some people are like that. I'm not saying every custodian will do that. And that person, you'll be surprised how much influence that person has within a company. Because if they're going to tell the CEO, oh my gosh, I was at that office. Gabrielle was so nice. Gabrielle was so great. Naija was like super excellent. She's such a great personality. I just love going to her office to pick up her, trash or whatever. And all of a sudden, guess what? Your name is coming up in an environment where you're not there, but other people are talking about you, the custodian. So yeah, you don't have to be the leader. You could be the gatekeepers, like the administrative person or the person of fun. That person, you go to a job, whether it's the nursing home, the bank, an office, You better be nice to the gatekeeper, that person you're saying hello to. Let me tell you, I know you wanted that. My first job in banking, I got it because of a gatekeeper.
Wow.
Because I would go, at the time you could go and apply. I went and applied for the job, and every time I would be super nice because that's my nature. I was like overly nice, and she would remember me. I always did something for her. Every 6 months, you could only go every 6 months, but I always did something for her to remember me. And one day I was having chit-chatting conversation with her, and I saw somebody passing by, and I'm like, oh, I know this guy. And that was someone that I had worked with before at another company. And she's like, oh, you know him? He's so super nice. I'm like, yeah, tell him to hire me. And guess what? 2 days later, I got the job.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I played my politics right. So that's the way you do it. So again, why are we having this conversation? And I wanted to have it. I thought I was gonna have this conversation by myself again, because I had, reached out to so many of my friends, and they're like, oh, this is not something that I'm familiar with. I don't feel like comfortable having this conversation. And I'm saying, haven't you worked in corporate America? Have you had experiences and all that stuff? And the fear of not feeling like everything. So before we go, we had this conversation about when you are going for these opportunities, do you really have to, because we talked about having comprehensive knowledge, right? Feeling like you're equipped for the position. But do you really, if you're a good politician, do you really have to be comprehensively equipped? Like you have to be equipped totally in order for you to go after a position? How many people have you met have gone for a position and they're learning as they go after getting the position?
Absolutely. There's a lot of people who do that. And I also think that it depends on the field that you're in too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Because certain fields, there's only so much you can slide, or like sneak your what do you call it? Like your
fake it before you make it.
Experience. Exactly. There's only so much, but there's people who lie on their applications all the time because they want a position and then they learn on the go.
Yeah.
So I think,
especially I would say, they said historically Caucasian white men, they're very assertive because they've been, because of their status in society.
But they're also advantaged too.
Yeah, they'll go for a job and then learn as they go.
They do. And I think unfortunately, like when it comes to that, they have the advantage.
Yeah.
But I do believe that your network is key.
Correct.
Getting your foot in the door with people who know people is key, right? And then you can learn. A lot of times your experience or your knowledge comes from your experience. It doesn't necessarily come from what's on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I definitely think that your network is number one. Yeah. The relationships that you build is number one. And then after that, everything comes.
Yeah. So, we've heard of lobbies in Washington, companies spending millions to lobby so that they can get their products or services, whatever, in front of governmental officials.
Yes, money talks.
Money talks. And so is a reality. In corporate America, you have to lobby, and people will who are good at lobbying for positions and lobbying for, power, status, do well at it. I've seen firsthand experience. I've seen folks who've been placed in positions because they lobbied for it, not because they had the comprehensive knowledge. Everybody can learn. Learning is something that everybody can do if you're willing to do the work. So I would encourage, so you cannot hit on someone who does the work of lobbying to get into the position that they get in. Because if you understand the law, organizational behaviors, and you understand the idea of office politics, you have to respect those people because they've done the work. We don't want anybody to play dirty games. Some unfortunately have done that, but most of the people that I've worked with have always played it clean. They just lobbied their way to the top. And if they're able to do that, so can you. Would you agree?
I agree. But I do also want to say that there are people who do work hard and they do have the requirements and they are eligible for a position and they get it. They may get the position not necessarily with a network, right? They may be the newest one walking into the door and they have to build it as soon as they get into the door. So everybody's journey is different, but like you said, I definitely think that if you do the work to get your foot in the door, whether it's through a network or whether it's through your experience, once you're in the door, you got to do the work. You have to show up. You can't be there not doing what you're supposed to do and then being mad about it because other people are surpassing you. You got to do the work. So I agree with you on that.
Exactly. So my last question is that if you are someone who's challenged in that area and who's bad at office politics, what would you suggest? I mean, you talked about network. I said make a friend.
Get with people who can help you or give you the resources that you need, whatever it is that you need. If it's a class you got to take, or if it's a program you got to do, or whatever, do what you got to do so that you can move up the ladder in your workplace.
Yeah. And we had talked about that offline, the idea of if you feel like you're very coy, you shy, you really cannot verbalize your what you want, but you want to keep record of what you've been doing, because that's the only way. If you eventually muscle up the strength to say, I want that position, I want a promotion, at least you'll have a record of what you've done. Because if you haven't been visible, that's what was happening with that particular person. He or she wasn't visible enough. So if you're not visible enough, you need to keep good record of what you've been doing so that you can say, listen, this is what I've been doing. Finally, I'm ready. Please, it's time for me to get. So especially when other people are taking credit, taking credit for what you've been doing. Don't you think it's very important?
Yes, I do. I think it's very important that you do exactly what you said. But I had in my mind that I wanted to say this too, right? Personal development is key.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean by that when I say personal development?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Put in the work. Going outside, even at the job.
Working on yourself, like facing your fears, doing the things that make you uncomfortable, because that's going to make you stronger and it's going to get you in places that you need to be so that you can be promoted, right? The fact that, like I said, the fact that you planted that little seed in his head, oh, well, why don't you ask your boss this? Why don't you ask questions? Do this, do that. All of those things that he didn't think about doing before because he was so caught up in his mind of not being able to get the job.
Yeah. He
changed his way of thinking, right? And work on those personal insecurities that you have. Everyone needs to work on this, like a daily thing.
Yeah.
Listen to 20 minutes or if there's an area that you know that you want to work on personally, like if you're shy, like you said, if you're somebody who doesn't like to talk a lot, right? Go on YouTube, look up some videos that can help build your confidence or teach you how to interact with people or socialize. It doesn't have to, like you said, it does not have to be a full-blown uncomfortable conversation, but just getting in this space of knowing who you are and being comfortable with who you are so that you're able to advocate for yourself and you're able to have those conversations with people. You're able to ask questions about positions that that may be coming up or opportunities that you want. I think that is super, super major. If you want to play politics right, you got to be comfortable and confident enough in yourself to play those politics.
And I think I'm glad you said that. And also too, I think it's so important to learn how to say yes. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll take a risk, because so many people are waiting again for them to be able to. I posted something earlier. Everybody's waiting to be perfect. I want to know everything. By the time you know everything, my friend, you are too old. The next group of people, the junior hires and the high schoolers, they're graduating, they're coming to the job, and they're gonna be taking your position. And they're going to be pushing your way because you'll be in retirement age. The key is to, like they say, seize the day, take advantage of the now. When personal development, and one of the things that I used to do a lot, whenever there's training available, I'm taking the training, right? You go and take training, and also you go and take advantage. The key is to not look at your coworkers and start blaming them for your lack.
Right.
Start blaming them for your limitations, right? The key is for you to go and maximize your own potential. Because if you do that, let's say the job is not the best place for you to become your full self. Listen, if you develop yourself, you'll find another avenue
Right.
to do what you need to do. But if you're sitting there eyeing or,
Talking about your coworker or saying how miserable you are, how much you hate your job, you're never going to go anywhere.
you're never gonna go anywhere. But if you go ahead and develop yourself and do what you need to do, then not only are you gonna be good. One of the things that I told people I used to do when I was way younger, fresh out of college, was I was part of so many different multi-level marketing companies. And part of the privilege of being with those companies was the opportunity to travel the country. So I've been to almost 30 states doing trainings and just like having conversation with people who are multimillionaires, and having had access to such great people. Some of them were really great, nice people who just were good at what they did, and they were very it was very lucrative for them. Gave me this idea that all things are possible. All things are possible for me, and all things are possible for everybody around me. So you don't need to be hating on your coworkers and getting retaliating, getting upset when you see them get promoted, because your promotion is next. And not only is your promotion next, maybe it's not with this company, maybe it's someplace else. But if you do the work, you'll get ready for that. So remember again, you have an agenda. What's your agenda? We say, what's your plan? What's your plan? What are you doing to work on your plan? If you have an agenda,
Can I say something too?
Go ahead.
Right, you just said something really important. Even if the job that you're at right now is not where you're meant to be,
Yeah.
when you do your best and you leave a lasting impression, you can use the people that are there to write a reference letter for you.
Correct.
Or be a reference for you to say, yeah, this person, while they were here, they did A through Z, and they were amazing at all of these things. They have all these amazing qualities, right? So it's still important to show up and do your best, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, and I'm going back to my family member who saw an email that was very disparaging about her, and she decided to not confront that person. I think sometimes, again, choose your battle, and also knowing that if you have an agenda, your agenda is not to become an enemy of the state or an enemy in the workplace. Trying to, especially certain minority groups have a history of being told that you are aggressive, you are angry and stuff like that. It's very important that you remain calm, and it's easier said than done. There are times that I've lost my temper, but when you see things that are happening to you that's not right. But you know what? If you remember your agenda, you go home and remind yourself, and also do the work, show up, be visible. Guess what? You will get there. You will get there, and not be afraid to ask for what you want, because nobody can read minds. Would you agree? Yeah, like nobody can read mind, right? While we waiting for people to read our minds, the ones who are getting what they want because they're verbalizing it, they're speaking up and they're asking for it. Nobody can read mind. So it's very important that you play the game right and you play it with integrity. Those who have not played it with integrity usually burn bridges, and then they cannot go back. They cannot go back. And it's a process of learning. When you're younger, you're like, oh, I don't need that job. Goodbye. But as you get older, you realize that no, I need every relationship that I've had. I need those relationships. I'm not gonna burn bridges. So if you're at the workplace, whether you're at nursing home, the hospital, a teacher, even at a church environment, an organization, even in your own family, sometimes you have to be a politician in that environment. It doesn't matter where you are. Wherever there are people, right? You are dealing with people, you have to know how to play the game, and you have to know why you're there. Your agenda, you have to know what it is. And once you know what it is, guess what? You can maximize your potential. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So tonight's show, I hope it really helps you, because on Let's Talk Money with Friends, we don't want to talk about just how to make money, how to invest money. We will have a lot of that conversation, much of that next year. We are planning on, different shows for next year with other people who have seen this show and have decided that they want to be part of this community. So I would hope that if you are watching this show and you've seen the show, I hope that you want to continue to be part of this community, but don't keep a good thing to yourself. Don't keep it a secret. Share, tag, make a comment, let your friends know that we are here every Wednesday to really have pertinent discussion, relevant discussions, timely discussions about things that will change their lives. I know this conversation tonight, if my one-on-one with a friend was able to change his or her life, this conversation ought to be able to change your life if you go and do what you need to do. So thank you so much for your time. Let's Talk Money with Friends will be on next week again. Definitely. Why office politics matter? It matters because that's the only way you can get to where you want to get. That's the only way to fulfill your agenda, your purpose. Whatever it is, go after.